It is 11:21 p.m. on Tuesday, March 25th. I was doing things. I got a new suit today, which is cool. I haven't actually ever bought a suit before, and because I'm getting to the age where my grandparents are getting to the age, I need to have some formal attire. It's always been tough on me because when I talked about how I view myself, I talk about how I work out a lot. I have abnormally large legs, so it's very difficult for me to find a suit because in comparison to my legs, my waist is small, so it's no pant fits me out right, so I always have to get it tailored, and it's just kind of a pain, but I did it, and it was fine, and surprisingly, I got the right length. It was roomy enough in my thighs, and so I just had to tailor the waist in, and we'll see how that goes when I get it back on Friday. But the thing that I've been doing, because I've been not doing anything for the past 2 days, and I really should start studying soon, is I've been watching a lot of anime, and I've already talked about how I watch a lot of shows, and shows I feel like I'm pretty well versed in the modern times, I guess. Like, I feel that older anime shows are kind of weird in some regards, and I feel like I definitely enjoy the newer ones better, maybe just because the animation quality is better and the story is a little bit better, but I definitely enjoy them a lot more than the older stuff. But the 90s movies are some of the best I've ever watched. And when it even comes to movies, like if I can rank the top 5 movies that I ever seen, like my favorite 5 movies, the best I've ever watched, it's not in no particular order. 1917 is probably the only one up there that's like, I would say All Quiet on the Western Front's really good, or Apocalypse Now, or Full Metal Jacket. I have a pattern of war movies that I think are really good, but they're strongly anti-war in that regard. They don't really glorify anything, but those three kind of tie. But then it's Perfect Blue, Memories, Robot Carnival, Akira, Jin-Roh, Wolf Brigade. I just watched that recently. It's really good. Like a lot of the older things that I like, Princess Mononoke, like all those older 90s movies, because I feel like in that time they're grittier, their stories are a little bit more convoluted, but it's also, I feel like at that time has an aesthetic that I really, really enjoy. Like the 90s, late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like what was it, the Sword of the Wanderer or something like that. It's another one. The end of Evangelion. It's like the movies that are in that time frame have a specific charm to them that I love so much. And I think it's because a lot of those I've watched, I have very convoluted storylines. Like I said, they're grittier, but it's more, they use the medium that they have to convey certain things. Like, Robot Carnival is the most significant one out of that list, where it's clearly all visual and some music. There's barely any spoken words within those 9 films. And it's such a I don't want to say trip, but it's enthralling. It's like it pulls you in. You just kind of watch it and you're like, it's uncanny, it's unnerving. There's themes of like love and like robots and what makes a human, and it's so intriguing to look at. And then I say Memories, and I would say Memories is probably one of the best 3 anthology films of all time. Like the Magnetic Rose is beautiful in all regards. I'd say The Stink Bomb is more comedic in that regard, but then Cannon Fodder is so good as well, and I love the story in that as well. And it's all that, like Akira is some of the best animation I've seen, and so early for that time. Perfect Blue is the best story I've ever watched. It's so entertaining to watch. And so it's like they have this deep, complex storyline and a bunch of other factors, but it's the way they look. And I don't want to say that I'm so artsy. I like this time. You have to be so artsy to watch these movies, but I feel like they have the way that they're presented And the styles of these, like Satoshi Kon is one of my favorites. Like I've just watched Millennium Actress. I love Perfect Blue. Paprika is an amazing movie as well. I've watched Paranoia Agent, and I'm gonna watch Tokyo Godfathers just to complete it all. And like I love his style and the way he tells a story. But then like it's so interesting. But I love how they like Jin-Roh Wolf Brigade is probably one of the more serious ish ones. It's like a fascist society, like counterintelligence, like wolf in human clothing. It's kind of like that thing. It's like the idea that there are bad people out there, and rather than them, like they're disguising themselves as normal people and being bad people, and they're there and you got to worry about them, especially within a fascist society, which I think is actually incredibly relevant to this day. But it uses the animation kind of as going uncanny almost and unnerving with how it's presenting the villain, how people die, the armor, which I'm like 60% sure inspired the Wolfenstein armor. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it's so gritty and like unnerving that it helps the story gain even more, and it's such a serious topic. And like Ghost in the Shell is another one. It's inspired many science fiction things, like Blade Runner being a big example as well. But it's, I don't know how to explain it. You just kind of have to watch it. But it's so, I really wish I can explain it so much better. I mean, I can't. It's really just that you have to watch it. Like I love to show the graininess of the film and like the way that people move, and like I go back to Jin-Roh and how it feels like it's the way the movements are switching between 3D and 2D, but I know it can't be 3D because 3D wasn't really around in that time, but it has to be maybe some rotoscoping or something, and it feels off, and it feels like it doesn't feel off in the regard that you're watching a show and that 3D animation just kind of looks weird. It feels off in the regard of the way Parasite feels off, where it's meant to be part of the show and work within the context of the story. And I mean, like, and they've influenced so much. I mean, Akira's got the famous bike slide. Ghost in the Shell is one of the first like modern sci-fi shows. Perfect Blue was inspired. This one guy who made a Requiem for a Dream and Black Swan. Paprika inspired Inception. Like Jin-Roh, I think, inspired Wolfenstein. Like so many things come from this era that we don't really realize about, and it's pretty much just what these are. And I mean, I am interested in this era because I'm a big fan of anime in general, but I think it's cool, I guess. It's so cool to watch, and I guess I'm a little bit more of a fan than other people of these kind of convoluted stories, and where you don't really know what's happening, but you kind of feel what the story's about. Like Robot Carnival is a great example. There's one short film called Cloud, which really does not make any sense, but it feels like something makes sense. It feels like there's a story there, and I like that feeling where you're not really supposed to understand, but you're kind of supposed to get there. And I mean, Perfect Blue is a great example where it has, like, I would say the best story I've ever watched, and it makes you think. You go through and you're questioning what's going on in your mind, and you're trying to come up with answers, and then it gets to the end and everything is just shattered. And then you go back and look through all the film in your head, and you're like, damn, that makes sense. And it's like, I love these films because I'm so enthralled by their art that I don't really get bored by like maybe the lulls in dialogue or the kind of odd cinematography, because I'm so used, like I like other people, like if this was a regular film, like I would say watching a Wes Anderson film is so much about the filmography and the cinematography that you can ignore some of the weirdness in the dialogue or the empty gaps in the film because you're so enthralled by the scenes. And that's how I feel about these movies. And I've looked through the reviews, and some people are like, this sucks, like this is so boring. But I think you have to understand that when you're watching these films, it is just as much about the art as it is about the story. the story is there, but you have to experience it through understanding that this animation is a medium, and it's such a special time in animation where it's just getting to a point where everybody's so good at what they do, yet it still has that grainy analog feel. Like if you have a freeze, like a still frame in these films, it gets the shutter. It gets like that old little kind of jittering back and forth, and it's such a unique experience. It's so good. Like so many movies. Like Perfect Blue, Paprika, Millennium Actress. I just watched that. It's amazing. Jin-Roh, Memories, Robot Carnival, Akira, Princess Mononoke, Grave of the Fireflies, Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust. Like it's so many films and they're so unique in themselves. Like Akira is supposed to this sci-fi apocalyptic movie. Perfect Blue is a psychological thriller about an pop idol turned actress. Paprika is a Inception style thing. I mean, like Princess Mononoke is about nature versus manufacturing and industry. And like Vampire Hunter D is this weirdly medieval yet advanced, like technologically advanced, like vampire hunter movie. Like there's so many different things about these movies, and they're so unique in each way, but they're so good. And I don't know, it's just been I've always had a love for this time frame of movies. My friend also has a love. He gets more into more historical stuff when it comes to samurai and stuff. He's kind of weird like that. Like he really loves Vinland Saga and like Samurai Champloo and stuff. But there's a lot of like this time frame just has such a unique, like when I called him up the other day and he was like, I just watched The Grave of the Fireflies and I'm devastated. And I'm like, of course you are. You have to be. Like when I was watching Grave of the Fireflies because like I've been slowly going through the Ghibli movies and I feel like now's about a good time to watch it, because then I watched Porco Rosso right after, which is a great movie as well. But I watched it, my parents come down and I had to give them a disclaimer. I'm like, hey, this is going to be probably the most sad movie you're going to watch in a while. And it's not like a Titanic sad. Like, you know, a Titanic sad is where like, oh, everything's sad, but then she goes back. It's so sad. It's beautiful. Like, Grave of the Fireflies is devastating. It's so beyond sadness. It's just, it's devastating. And it's like, there's so many different things in these movies. Like, you can have, like, you can go from watching Grave of the Fireflies to Porco Rosso, which is in the same, like, 10 years, and it has a complete tonal shift, and it's so interesting. It's like now you can watch movies, like I feel like if you watch movies from the 80s, the most popular movies from the 80s in live action, at least from an English speaking standard, is action movies or rom-coms. And there's really no in between. Like you get some standouts, you get some really good standouts, but I love the fact that this era of anime has such a unique distribution of genres, yet they all like are equally as good, and it's just so good. They're so good, and I'm kind of forcing my family to watch one of them with me because I get kind of annoyed right now when I'm the only one that watches them. It's less of the fact that I'm like the only one, like I'm not going to force them to watch anime and be a part of my interest, but I watch these movies all the time and I find them so interesting that I kind of want to talk about them. And I can't really, like if I watch Sunny Boy and I'm like, oh my God, I wish somebody has watched that with me because I love to talk about it. Or like when I watch Perfect Blue, I call my dad, I'm like, hey, I just watched this movie. It's so good. You need to watch it. And so like, I want to be able to talk about it with some people, and not many, my family members definitely don't watch that thing. So I'm going to kind of force them to watch, which I have to actually decide what movie I watch. I'm not going to force them to watch Perfect Blue. They've already kind of watched Grave of the Fireflies, but those two are too heavy. Jin-Roh would be interesting, but I think they would get bored. Robot Carnival is way too out there for them just because I think I want to make them watch like a regular movie. Robot Carnival is like how is Fantasia. I keep referencing back to Fantasia. It is Fantasia. But for Japan. I don't know. It's a little bit too artsy to be an intro, I guess. I would say Akira, Memories. I don't know if I want to introduce Paprika because even though I love Satoshi Kon, Paprika was, I would say right now, it's, before watching Tokyo Godfathers, Paprika is the third best. It would definitely go Perfect Blue, Millennium Actress, Paprika, and, I mean, I watched Paranoia Agent, and it was really intriguing for the first 6 episodes, and then it kind of got a little boring, and I'll definitely put that last so far, but, and then, like, Vampire Hunter D could be interesting, but I guess it's more of me being interested in that as a video game kind of aspect. I'm not going to make them watch a Ghibli movie because Ghibli is a cop-out, because they're great movies and all kid-friendly in general, that I don't think that's, I want them to be really kind of, so I would say, like, Millennium Actress would actually be a good one, but I think Memories would probably be my pick, Memories or Akira, and then, but I would love to have them watch Perfect Blue, but Perfect Blue is a little too harsh as a starter. Even though I think Perfect Blue was the first movie that I watched a couple of years ago when it came to this era. But yeah, but I have to figure that out, and I'm gonna go watch Tokyo Godfathers, study some Japanese because I have a meeting with my Japanese teacher tomorrow about the classes that I missed for Natties. So I gotta do that, look over what I missed before I go in. She teaches me the stuff, so I have to head out. I'm gonna make some popcorn probably.